Okay, so here we are. Welcome and a very good evening to our first race of the season, the ERT at Qatar. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Mitsky and I'm joined together here with Ace. Good evening, Ace. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, this season will be starting off with a bang in a new track of Qatar.
Yeah, indeed. This is the first time that we'll be driving at the Losail International Circuit. The circuit is located 30 kilometers north of Doha in Qatar. And a fun fact about this track is that you only get 9 days worth of rain in a year, so that's not a lot. The track itself is 5.4 kilometers long, 16 turns, and a DRS detection zone just before turn 16, where we'll find one DRS zone, which will be on the start-finish straight.
Yeah, so quite a lot of facts about this track being made all the way back in, if I can remember, it was made back in 2004, became a permanent fixture for MotoGP before hosting its first night race in 2008, same year as Singapore held its first night race in F1. The only drivers who have raced here were Checo Perez in 2009 GP2 Asia, and the former driver of Nikita Mazepin being an MRF challenged in 2014. So not many drivers, other than the ones that had raced in obviously 2021, had experienced this track before. So it was always a challenge in general to figure out where the braking zone is and whatnot, because you may have had it in your sim, but it's not always 100% to the real track.
It'll take some time for drivers to figure out, but I believe the braking zone into turn 1's about 65 meters before the turn starts. Is that correct?
Which one again? Turn 1?
Turn 1,
65, yeah. Yeah, about 65 meters before it, and then turn 2 being just about the entry curb for it. So if you race on no line, it's always going to be a challenge. When you get the new game in general, but once you get used to it, you should be okay.
We'll see how the drivers cope with it. Just to give you some other facts, we'll be using the C3, the C2, and the C1 compounds for this weekend, so the hardest compounds that we'll have, and there will be 2 mandatory pit stops over the race that will span 29 laps in total, so just averaging about 150 kilometers in total that we will find. The run up until turn 1 from the start finish line is about 370 meters, so we should see a little bit of action later on. But of course, first will be the qualifying that we'll get started with. The qualifying will last about 18 minutes, but I think what will be good now is to take everyone up to the calendar, so to have a bit of an idea what is in store for season 23 before moving on to the drivers.
Yeah, so it's a pretty exciting calendar going from Qatar, and then you head over to the European side for a little bit with Imola, then Hungary. You go to Brazil, you head to Japan, and then you go to Vegas, winding off the first half of your season.
Yes, and after this first half of the season, we will continue in Portugal, beautiful track near to Portimao. We'll go on to Belgium for round 8, followed by Spain, Singapore, Britain, and finally our season finale at the United States at the Grand Prix of the Circuit, the Americas in Texas. Now let's move on to our drivers. I think I have them here. There we go. Do you want to take this? Or should I?
I'm just trying to find the graphic again quickly because I didn't have it up.
Oh, good. I'll go over to the drivers. So for the Oracle Red Bull Racing Team, we find Trude9665 and Sharky OC. For the Scuderia Ferrari, we find TTG_King J and Nick G07. For the Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula 1 team, we have Jamie Met 92 and Ols 56. For the BWT Alpine F1 Racing team, we find MFC Trunders and Rudy. And for McLaren Formula 1 team, we have Fozzie Bear 70 and Rageman 32.
And then heading over to Alfa Romeo, you've got Odog Shelby and Giacomundo 87. 2 new drivers I have not actually heard of at all, mind you, being commentator last season in the P3 tier. Got to know quite a lot of drivers, but some of these guys I don't recognise currently. Then there is the Aston Martin team of Ghost72 underscore UK, and then Van Giggle in the other Aston Martin. He was here last season, so unfortunately he didn't have a great one. He's trying to bump the season up again. Then there is F1 Matthias and Funky in the Haas. Matthias taking that seat back again for this season, and it's Hooky and John Mason in that AlphaTauri, two former teammates. They were in the McLaren last season. They've switched over to the AlphaTauri, and then it's the two pairing that you always expect to see in the Williams. It's Kington and Jess.
All right. In the meantime, I will switch over to our in-game overlay. I hope the game will show up. It did work earlier on. There we have it, because the qualifying did already start a minute ago. But I first want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors for this season. So we have Next Level Racing, Vespertine, Pure Sim Gear, ERT, SimGrid, and Assetec Sim Sports. There are also some prizes that will be awarded to the drivers this season. Can you give me a little bit more information about that? Let's just go over and let's put some telemetry on so we have some idea of what's going on. So the drivers are just warming up for this qualifying session. As you can see, there will be 18 minutes in total. So we have a couple of our drivers already out on track. So you have Nagiggle Mate, Giacomundo, Doug Shelby, Truth, MFC Trunders, Rageman, Hooky. Now most of the drivers are actually going to go out, so only about half of them remain in the pits. What are your expectations for this qualifying ace? Sure, if Ace is still around, but we'll try and have a good look at this and see if we can go for an onboard with Johavin Gigawatt. We have our data. Let's have a look. Alright, there you are. Welcome back.
Unfortunately, my Discord crashed. It's not used to having the stream up as well.
Oh, good. I'll just have to see
but no.
if I can... Too much. That's the one I wanted to get away. There we go, we're just spectating you having a giggle mate in the moment. He was cruising through sector 1. It'll take quite a bit of speed through there to move into the hard braking zone. 27.6 for that first sector. Into the faster second sector. This corner is quite difficult. Very easy to get track limits here. Move into another quick right-hander. So you brake not too hard, carry a lot of speed through to get into the fastest section of this track. Now these corners require minimum to no braking here. Lifting a little bit, as you can see, keeping it in 7th gear. Close, very close to track limits, but seeing the track on the bottom, all in red, I think he got some track limits indeed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he did invalidate that lap. Just trying to look through my lap as well. Next, across the line, I think his teammate is coming up to the line as well as an Aston Martin. I think that may have been Giggle, but King goes currently 10th behind him. Not what he wants, especially it being his teammate, but then there is I think it was Fuzzy Faster on a lap. Rageman had invalidated his lap when he was setting his first one. There was a Red Bull coming around. That would have to be Truth. And he goes 2 times off King for his first lap, whereas everyone else will be coming around. Another Alfa Romeo, Giacomundo, Williams. That's King John, and he goes instantly into the top 3. Stranders puts him out of it.
Yeah, we're just
as well as
spectating Giacomundo. We saw him go a little bit wide there.
Yeah, Funky goes to the top, and then I think that was Sharky across the line there. 23.149. Currently 9/10 off the fastest lap, but these are only the first laps. These will be getting quicker as the session goes on. So there's nothing really to worry about.
As we see a yellow flag in Sector 2, not entirely sure what is going on there as we see Fuzzy Bear rounding off his first flying lap. Now making his way through the final corner, turn 16, DRS opening up. Let's see if he can have a nice lap time on the board. He's about a second off first place, but still slots him into a nice 7th position here. So we have 11 of our 20 drivers now completing their laps. I think those were most of our first Flu Flyers. We have 5 drivers, so Jess Oles, Jamie, Matthias, and Jeremy Mason currently on their outlaps. In the meantime, while we're waiting, Ace, can you take us over the prizes that we have this season?
Yeah, so currently there are a lot of prizes being given out by our sponsors, being Next Level Racing, Pearson Gear, Aztec Sim Sports, Mystery Shirt Box as well. They just came in at the end of last season. Vespa Time with our Elite Racing team with the Going It's Tough award and the league trophies that you get if you're, I think, top 3 or Constructors Champion. And as well as SimGrid, we power the season through them, so it's not always down to being in the server for every info you need. There's also the SimGrid link, which I think the bot every so often will put that in chat, so you don't always need to worry about us sending it. But the prizes that we do have, one of the champions of the 3 tiers will win an Next Level Racing FGT Elite Light Wheel Plate Edition with the ES1 seat. It is like a full rig that you can customize to your height and if you want it raised a little bit or not. One of our 2nd or 3rd place drivers in their tier will win a Next Level Racing GT Elite Light Wheel Plate Edition with an ERS2, and then every driver will have a chance to win Next Level Racing 2.0 wheel stand. It's one of the ones that folds up, and it's really nice. I've been able to drive on one of them. It's not always what you think it's like. You'd think if you're in a, say, one seat as well, you'd think you always have your legs raised, but with it being, say, like a desk, it works so well for the people that don't have that much space in the house. I think as well as that, there is a combined qualifying time prize. Short of combined time will win a set of boots, and they are really nice, honestly. The winner of the ERT Going It's Tough award will get the Aztec Sim Sports t-shirt and cap. But as well as that, you need to remember, one mystery shirt box will go to the winner of rankings. Those rankings are all done by Cam every week, and it can be between your qualifying pace, your race pace, or however you do throughout the weekend.
Alright, well thank you very much for that, Ace, so we have a little bit of a better idea as to what our drivers will be fighting for this season. In the meantime, we were following Jess on board, driving to a wonderful 3rd position so far, as we're now on board with the Aston of Johavin Gigelway. You see a Haas going wide there, quite close. Don't know if that affected his lap all too much, but we'll see at the end of the lap how much that did really affect anyone. We're currently halfway through our qualifying session as we are approaching our final 8 minutes, with the fastest lap still being a 1:22.2 for the Haas, although we just saw Rageman come very, very close to that with a 1:22.3. See in the meantime if we can spectate Rudy, because he has not driven a lap yet and seems to be he is going for that now. First sector being a 27.7, couple 10 slower than the other drivers that we saw earlier on. Fast right-hander, still exploring the track a little bit as he takes good exit speed towards the fast section of the track. Trying to lift as little as possible, does shift back a little bit, takes a lot of speed into the next corner. Flying through here, trying to use as much curb as he can. He'll be rounding off his lap in a moment now. See Rudy, the Alpine, come through the final corner. So far, the gap between first and last, at least between the set times, about 2 seconds. The field is not all too far apart. What do you think?
Normally, these tiers are always spaced out in your pace on a qualifying night, so it's always to be as close as possible. It's not so you always have one driver who's 3 seconds ahead and one driver who is 3 seconds behind everyone. You want to keep that gap between around about an overall of 7/10 total, which is not always hard because you need to remember this track is new, not everyone knows it. But if you go to a track like Silverstone, where the qualifying night was held, you had it a lot closer because it's been on previous F1 games and it's not 100% a new track. As we're just seeing, Fozzie Bayer goes into P3, 8.1 improved on that last lap. So that's what I did say at the start. Your first lap shouldn't always be your fastest one. It's always your banker for a reason. You should be able to get laps throughout the session. And if you can do so, you should be on for a really quick time.
Yeah, in the meantime, we're spectating TTG King J driving his Ferrari, who was only a 10th down the first sector. It's now 3/10 down the second sector, but as we can see, his ERS has run out, so he will be struggling to finish off this lap. Currently in 8th position here, as we see him drive on the final bend, but I think he's going to look for the pits, and he indeed is. No completed lap for him. Sharky, however, is on a flyer. He does have quite a bit of ERS left, and he's now entering the final 2 corners.
Rudy's retired.
Rudy has retired. Saw in the Discord that he's having a little bit of internet issues, asking whether he was lagging a little bit, but we find him now currently in 18th.
That was Ridgeman asking whether he was lagging, not Rudy.
Alright, not bad. And we see Sharky slotting in 7th, 122.8.
Yeah, I just noticed as well, he completely left the session, so unless that's an issue of him having a go or something, I'm not too sure. Hopefully, nothing bad though.
And I'm spectating JR Mason, who seemed to have quite a fast first sector, but has now pushed his pedal back. I can see why. He's got track limits. Track limits really is something that the driver should be aware of this weekend. It's very, very easy to get track limits here in Qatar. And I think the drivers will be struggling with that, as indeed we see and look for the pits. Almost overshooting that there, but keeps it all nice and tight.
Yeah. You need to remember as well, that pit entry line, you make sure not to cross it, but you also need to make sure you don't hit the wall when you're going around the corner, because the line for the pit limiter isn't until about 300 meters at least down after that turn. So you just need to be careful. When do you want to downshift? When do you want to brake? If you're not using ABS as well, you need to make sure that you don't lock up. Because in the race, once you go over that speed limiter by even 1 mile an hour, you will be handed a straight 5-second time penalty, and unfortunately, they aren't wrong. If you do get one of those penalties, unless you haven't served and you've been hit into the pit lane by someone else, then you can't get those removed because you've got other pit stops to make. You've got 2 mandatory pit stops, remember. And if you have a 5-second time penalty to your name, that will be served instantly.
Yeah, it's definitely not ideal if you have to serve a time penalty, especially with the field being quite close. As we're now following MFC Trunders go for his lap. He's quite a bit off sync. There are not too many drivers on the track yet, so we're entering, we're already within our final 3 minutes of the lap. 27.4 is the first sector of MFC Trunders comes round, so he seems to be on quite a flyer. So far he was 7/10 off first place, but let's see if he can make up some of that lost ground in our second sector. Trying to carry as much speed through the bend here. Does quite well at that. Still has a lot of energy left to deploy the final section of this lap. It's about a 10th quicker now. Slightly faster in sector 2, but not that massive gap if he wants to make that jump towards the lead of the field. But looking at the timesheet, he should be able to at least make a jump a little bit further up the field. The big question is though, did he bring enough fuel to go for a second run? Will this be it?
Yeah, all the equipment used, and across the line he only improves by about 1.8, improves by a position up to 7. If he had another 100th in him, he could have possibly had top 6 ahead of Jess. So you have to say, it is doing very well. Last season, not always in the top 10, but it seems here, with a little bit of practice on this track, being a new one, she's doing pretty well.
And meanwhile, Jamie is on the flyer, hasn't driven a single lap yet, so it will be that one lap, and that's it. He's now going to come through the final bend. He was very, very fast in the first sector with a 27.1, the fastest first sector that I have seen. But will he be able to beat that fastest lap time? Comes fairly close, but finishes in 8th position. And I think no, leader is still there, but they're now going to enter their fastest lap. So let's see if we can put our eyes on Rageman. So we haven't seen him too much yet, and he's been doing quite well. Currently in 2nd position, only a 10th off of pole. Now let's go through his lap. Towards the end of the first sector. Sector time is going to be very important here. At 27.1 is the sector time there. 33 thousandths of a second slower than his previous lap, but all still to fight for the enter sector 2. A very nice line, almost oversteering there, but still keeping it on the track. Shouldn't have too many issues with Dirty Air, even though there's a car in front of him, but should be far enough in front of him so that he should be alright. Now approaching the fast right-handers, not lifting at all through the first, not lifting at all through the second. The third one also full throttle, really going for it here, Rageman, as we're now approaching. Oh no, he goes wide. That could have been it. But he does pick up track limits in turn 15. Would have also picked those up in turn 16. So it's not going to be pole for Rageman. But as we can see, it would have been it would have been enough for pole position, really.
Yeah, that is just the problem with the track limits. And from what I saw, he would have only been 5,000 off. Jess has gone into P2.
Jess has gone into P2 indeed. Only 20,000
well
seconds
done. She has never had a pole position, but I don't know about front row. And at the moment, unless Giggle can improve. Yeah, unless Giggle can improve, she's staying at P2.
Now approaching the start-finish line, was quite close to the times, but is it enough for pole position? It is not a P4 for Giggle. That means we have our final standings.
Yeah, final grid for the race, but I'm just hoping Rudy can get back in as well, because he did have to leave the station unfortunately due to connection error. But your starting grid for the race, Funky on pole position, only 18,000.
Yeah, very, very close, but his first lap was all enough. He's going to share that first row together with Jess. Furthermore, we find Fuzzy Bear in 6th position with Hookie in 9th, Mason in 11th, Kingen on 14th, and at the back of the grid we will see Matthias, Ols, Shelby, and Rudy, who had those issues earlier on.
Yeah. So a close good, I would probably say, considering it is only a new track. 1.7 tenths being the real decider. It was 1.1 because of some issues down at the back of the field between the likes of
It was indeed very, very close there up on front. And I think the top three, top four was quite close within a tenth of a second only. So we're now going to be preparing for the race. We see Rudy left the session, so he still seems to be having some issues there, hoping to get into the race, although starting from P19. In a moment, we're going to queue up. What's important for you guys to know is that for this race of 29 laps, we will see a mandatory of 2 pit stops, and we will not be doing a formation lap. So once the drivers are loaded in and the drivers are ready, we will get started and move straight into the race. What do you think is going to happen up until the first corner? Because, like I mentioned, the road up until turn 1 is only 370 meters, but I think a couple of our drivers could have a good go at each other. Try, well, not so much to dive on, but try and go for a couple of overtakes to change the leader into the first corner. Or do you think Funky is going to come out on top after the first lap? What do you think?
yeah. It's not normally a track there is many overtaking zones. Remember that, what, 370 meters down towards turn 1, your major overtaking zone after the DRS as well. But I would say Funky can stay in the lead at least. I'm just hoping as well Jess doesn't fall down from P2.
It will be very, very interesting to see indeed what is going to happen at the start. What is also important for us, as well as for the viewers back at home to know, is that the pit stops, like I mentioned, 2 mandatory pit stops. A pit stop estimated about 19 seconds in total, and the drivers will have to figure out their best strategy as we're lining up on the grid. 3, 4, and 5 lights, and we're on our way. Who has the best start here?
We are going again. Jess has seemed to have a good start on Funky, but can she hold on to the P2 and towards turn 1? 3 wide there, not what you always want as Ridgeman trying to go on the outside, hasn't made up any positions yet, but going the inside, Jess has been able to pick up that P2 off her neck as well, closing in very quickly on her and in towards turn 4, heading for it. I think we might have taken our track. I'm not warning is already not what you want on the first lap, considering there's still 20 more to go.
Ferrari indeed coming very, very close to trying to overtake that. Oh, we see an issue for an Alfa Romeo falling back a little bit. That is Giacomundo. Not entirely sure what happened, but seemed like he had some issues coming out of the first corner. But indeed, Funky kept his lead there. A really, really good start for him. So we have another yellow flag in sector 2. One of the Alpines going a little bit wide.
Sharky unfortunately had a half spin, as well as that Rudy has just had a half spin of his own on the exit of turn 10 now into the flat out zone during qualifying. You don't want to always take a flat here during the race, as with the high fuel load being on, it's only 3.4 laps because of the high fuel burn in the last stint. And Rudy pulls in for the first stop already.
And we see Trunders making an overtake onto Fuzzy Bear in that final corner. I thought he was going to slot in right behind to try and go for the overtake, but it seems to have gotten it done just before that. And meanwhile, Rageman is taking over first position. What happened there?
Yeah, I think Funky made a mistake through the previous lap. Giacomundo has unfortunately crashed. That has brought out the VSC. I don't actually know. Oh, that looks like it's been with another car that he's crashed with. Because that doesn't look like he's hit a wall.
I see Rudy is in the pit, so I'm not sure if that had any effect on him. Let's take a look at Rudy here, who has made his pit stops now on the C2 compound, the mediums, as he's going to rejoin the track. Of course, this isn't too bad. I mean, he's had one of his pit stops done now, and he will slot behind, although it is still a virtual safety car, so we'll gain a couple of seconds, but if he was involved in that accident earlier on, I'm not sure how much he's going to gain with that.
Yeah, speaking of tyres, just a look at them at the moment. Rageman, Nick, Thunders, Fozzie Bear, Hooky, JR Mason, and Matthias are still in the softs. I think that's why Jess fell down a couple of places, but on that, I don't know if you call it, was that a VSC restart, or did Rudy just pick up a drive-through on his own accord?
Rudy picked up a drive-through penalty for speeding in the pit lane, just as if his weekend could not get any worse. Problems in qualifying. Oh, we have another speeding in the pit lane for Trunders. It's our second penalty coming up now, but we see quite a few drivers going for a pit stop here with Hookie, King, and Mason, and Shelby into the pits.
Yeah, so...
speeding in a virtual safety car, my bad.
Yeah, speeding on the virtual safety car, as you saw there, King Jen picked up the first time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. He also had a front wing change to make, so he might have actually been the one that caused Jackamundo to DNF in the end, because he did have damage to his name. The only thing is, Trunders, he's trying to make up his way up through the field very quickly, but he's got to drive through the serve, and you only get 3 laps to serve it. You take any more, and you're an instant disqualification, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not looking good for him trying to take that pit stop early. Well, no, he didn't take that pit stop early. He did indeed get that penalty for that, so we will have to look for the pits in a moment, and that is going to send him back to about P13 behind Ols. As we see Funky slowly trying to reach Rageman, but he seems to be having pretty great pace out front. Oh, as the Ferrari goes very wide, Nick going way too wide into turn 15, but keeping a hold. P3 for now.
Yeah, as well as the back. John unfortunately made a mistake down in turn 6. Had a little bit of half spin. Got the car around again though, and is back on the way just ahead of Shelby. Whereas Jamie being overtaken, a little bit of contact as well between him and Truth, which allows Fozzie Bear to try to go for the overtake when the outside of turn 2. Even tried to go for it on Truth, wasn't able to do it yet on the exit of 3 though, in towards 4. Can he maybe someone on the inside of Jamie? No, we can't, just have to sit behind for now. But those 4 currently in a little world of their own, trying to get past one another and up towards the rest of the pack being just behind Trunders, who will have to pit again due to that drive-through, but that should be in a lap or 2.
And in the meantime, we see so far that Matthias drove the fastest lap. He's outside the top 10, but it's interesting to know that both the driver with the fastest lap in top 10 and the driver with the fastest lap outside the top 10 will get 1 point for that. So currently Matthias will get that extra point, as well as getting a point for being in 12th position. The top 12 getting a point score here. Will you be able to break this down for us, Ace? Oh, we see the McLaren going into the pits in the meantime. Fozzie Bear.
Yeah, Fozzie Bear just pitting there. But no, the championship points that you get only if you finish though, if you do DNF, as I've just seen Thunders being disqualified for ignoring his drive-through.
That is so unfortunate. We will see him disappear now. Was driving in 7th position, doing quite well. But this is a really unfortunate ending and not a great start to your season here.
No, definitely not what you want in the first race of all of them. But no, the points when you finish inside the top 12, it goes from first being 20, second will get 17, third will get 14, fourth will get 12, fifth get 10, sixth will get 8, seventh will get 6, 8th will get 5, ninth will get 4, 10th will get 3, 11th will get 2, and 12th will get 1. And as you did say about as well, if you get it in the top 10, you'll get a lap for your fastest point, and if you get the fastest lap outside the top 10, you also get a fastest lap point.
That means that we see the Ferrari of Nick overtaking the Haas of Funky, but does pick up a 3-second time penalty for track limits there. So he will have to serve those later on. But what we did see earlier on too is that Funky's on a little bit of a different strategy. He's running the medium compound, as whereas Rachman, Nick are running the softs, and also the Aston Martin, who's now going with the dive bomb into turn 1, is on those medium tires. I don't think is he able to get by? Let's have a look here.
Not,
the onboard view.
yeah.
Not quite yet. Top 4 really trying to pull a gap already, a 1.6 gap to the driver in 5th position, and the top 4 all within DRS range of one another. The Haas going very, very wide, opening the door for having a giggle mate, but he's not able to profit out of that. Trying to see if he can make up some of that time and keep within that DRS range, as we see Rachman try and pull away there. Now has a 1-second gap. That would be just enough if he can keep that until turn 16, because that's where our DRS detection point is.
Someone spun wide as Matthias, unfortunately falling down at the order. A bit of a spin on the exit of turn 10, so it's not the best start, but he's able to get the car back around and underway again. I did just notice as well, Trundles had gone into the race director. He got his drive-through on lap 2. He was given 3 laps to serve, but lap 2 end of it was still under VSC conditions. Lap 3 and 4 were his to serve. He didn't want to. He wanted to do it on lap 5. He got disqualified on lap 5. So I don't know if that VSC lap counted or not, which it shouldn't do because you can't serve under safety car conditions anyway. So unfortunately for him, he's out. And there's nothing we can do about it now.
We'll have to see at the end of this session exactly what just happened there. But unfortunately for him, this means now that this first round race for him is over. Very, very unfortunate start to the season, which seemed to be going quite well up until that lap 5, of course.
Yeah, tried his best, but apparently he never got the VSC warning either. So that's not the best.
No, that is one of the
Not
worst
the
things
best
that
in
can happen
history. And Nick has just fallen out of the DRS range. Will he be able to pick it up? No, he won't, because he's pitting on the end of this lap. So he's getting one of his pit stops out the way currently, Rageman and Matthias. The only 2 still left from those soft component tyres. But they will be making a pit stop soon. As Giggle is trying to go for the move on Funky. He's been able to get past Funky, falling down 2 positions from where he started now.
Yeah, very good overtake. Both of the drivers did have their DRS, but it looked like Giggle had just that better exit out of turn 16, and now has to try and see if he can make up ground to Rachman. Remember, he is on that 1 compound that's a little bit tougher, which will last a bit longer too. And that means we will likely see him and Funky look for the pits a little bit later. And I think Rachman might be coming into the pits either at the end of this lap or the next one.
Yeah, because those tyres don't last too long with softs, with it also being a relatively medium to high drag circuit. Being in the Middle East, it's always the same with the likes of Bahrain and Jeddah. The tyres don't last as long as you really want them to, so you're having to make it a little bit of an early pit stop compared to the likes of, say, Silverstone, as I've just seen Rageman run very wide on the exit of turn 14. Maybe he's just picked up a warning.
In the meantime, Jamie also picking up a 3-second time penalty for track limits, as we're currently spectating Truth, closely followed behind by Jamie and Sharky, both within the DRS range. Trying to pick up here, now has the DRS behind. Let's see what we can see. Can Jamie go for the overtake here? A defensive move being made by Truth. Jamie has to go around the outside, tries to brake a little bit later, but can he get around here? He does get around here. Does he get the overtake sorted as well? Looks like it. Very nice overtake from Jamie onto Truth for position 6 here, as he can now try and make up lost ground towards King. But a very nice overtake at the end of the start-finish straight. Meanwhile, Funky is trying to get a little bit closer up into second place to Giggle. Trying to up the pressure, as Giggle has also returned into the DRS range of Rangeman. Still no pit stop for Rangeman, but considering the fact that he's lost about half a second this last lap and Giggle is coming quite a bit closer, he will have to consider taking a pit stop at the end of this lap. Let's go on board with him as we're approaching the final section of the track. Is he indeed going for that pit stop? He is indeed losing too much time here, so I'll have to switch his soft tires for a new fresh set, likely of the medium compound. So we now have a new race leader. Giggle, I don't think has been up on front already. He will be for the time being. Of course, we'll have to see how the strategies are going to play out, and what is interesting to see where Nick is going to come out together with Rageman. Rageman is still in the pits. Meanwhile, Shelby also getting a time penalty. Will Rageman be... No, Rageman comes out behind Nick, so it's Nick who's now virtually ahead. Well, he's fully ahead of him. But will that also mean that he could be virtually ahead in the race itself? He has about a 3-second gap towards that. He was about a second and a half behind the leader earlier on. Well, the leader being him. So it looks like most of the drivers that have to still take a pit stop will come back behind him. And we'll try to get some extra information on that. I think that would be very nice for us to see. So we have a little bit of extra detail on the pit stops and some extra telemetry, so we can see what exactly is going on. Now we can see the intervals. Indeed, the first person that has made their pit stop in 9th position, that is Nick, so virtually in the lead, as in that sense does still have to serve that 3-second time penalty. That time will be added up on top of his tally at the end of this race, so he will need to make a 3-second gap, which he currently has, but the question is, will that remain? In the meantime, Funky and Jess, a lot of people are actually going for the pits. We follow Ols into the pits. He was on those mediums. He's going to swap out those mediums for a fresh set of mediums. Very fast pit stop for Ols, as he seems to be remaining in the same position as he was earlier on. Let's see at what point of the track he comes back into the field. I think the McLaren of Fozzie Bear will still overtake him, so he will come back in 12th position, but not all too far behind. He will have some catching up to do here. In the meantime, we see our top 4 still hasn't stopped yet. Nick indeed ahead of Rageman, also ahead of Funky, a good 3-second gap, but that's what you get if you stop that little bit earlier. Undercut seemed to work there, but also of course the different strategies, most notably for Funky, who started on the medium compound. Let's see what tires he had now. The Rageman now getting a 3-second time penalty for track limits. That is not good. We see Funky, who started on the medium, continuing on the medium, will likely mean that the last sector will be done on the soft tires. Nick picks up another 3-second time penalty, now in a total of 6, and that's not looking good for him, as we see our race leader, Giggle, going inside of the pits. Also switching from medium to medium, same strategy as Funky. Let's see at what position he's going to come out. Nick has overtaken him. That'll likely mean that Rageman also comes by. Where exactly is he going to come back? Is that in front or behind the Haas? Just in front of the Haas. Shelby picking up another time penalty as well. Quite some chaos. And Kingen as well. Yeah. And also falling back behind Shelby. We have yellow. Yellow in sector 3. That must be them. Oh, Kingen has gone off. Kingen has gone off in the penultimate corner. R-Star still okay, driving on the hards. But does he have damage? It doesn't look like it, otherwise he would have looked for the pits. But he will keep on driving here. In the meantime, I'm peering an eye over to my Saudi commentator box. Ace, have you had your issues resolved? Are you back in?
Yeah, I am back in, but unfortunately I have got that desync bug. It basically just drops all the drivers round every so often. For a second, Sharky was leading.
In the meantime, we see Jamie go for his first pit stop. Is Truth also going for a pit stop? No, Truth is not going for a pit stop yet. He's going to continue on the medium compound. He's now approaching lap 13, the start of turn of lap 13. He'll still have to make 2 pit stops. Could this mean that he's going for a medium soft strategy? Ace.
It is possible, but with always, the tyre drop-off is not the best at all. Whereas the undercut in most tracks can be very crucial to get, because you get that fresh set on. Yes, your tyres will wear out a lot more towards the end, but if you get the fresh set on, and the driver in front of you still hasn't made their pit stop, still has worn out tyres, you'll be able to get a jump on them because yours are a lot fresher than theirs.
In the meantime, we see the battle for 4th position heating up as Giggle and Funky are getting very, very close to each other. The gap is slightly bigger now, but was only 0.2 of a second. So he went into sector 1. We also see Nick closing the gap onto Truth, who will likely come in for his pit stop now. He's lost over 1.5 seconds this lap alone. We're not at the end of the jet, as Nick picks up yet another time penalty. It's his 3rd time penalty already this race, and we're not even halfway through. Drivers now approaching the final bend. Nick indeed. Yeah, we see Truth now going for his pit stop. But the big question is now really, who really is in the lead? Because we have a couple of drivers with a penalty. I don't think Rachman has picked up more than a 3-second time penalty, so he should virtually still be ahead of Giggle. But Giggle and Funky are having a very, very close fight for now 3rd position.
Yeah, they're still fighting away in close nature between the 2 of them. Only just about 3.5 tenths between them. It's always been around 0.5 of a second between them.
So now we can see the full penalties. So for Nick, it's currently 9 seconds. For Rachman, it's 3. King, Sharky, and Jamie picked up a 3-second time penalty together with Fozzie Bear. Matthias got 6. 9 seconds for Shelby, 3 for Hookie and Rudy, and finally 8 for Kingen. So as requested, the time penalties so far. Now we have a bit more information on the tires as well. I think that would be very good for us to know too. So indeed, mediums for Motor Track. Jazz has actually gone for the hard compound. How's that treating her? Let's look at her lap times.
I maybe see her going to the soft at the end. Potentially why?
Could be. I think she I'm not entirely sure if she started on the soft or the medium. Definitely now
it was
on
the
the
mediums.
hard. It was the mediums.
It was the mediums. Started on the medium. She was the same as Rageman. No.
Meanwhile, Jamie is at the fastest lap time at 1:25.701. Currently in 8th position, trying to catch up with King. King very close to the P6 of Sharky. But I think we have a real battle for first place at hand, with Rachman trying to come closer and closer to Nick. Ooh, getting very close there. Seems to have a much better line going into that 2nd sector, but it's all about the exit that you can get here. Seems to be had to brake a little bit there, so can't really follow Nick all that much here. But I think he'll try to line up for the start-finish straight and see if he can go for an overtake. This went a little bit wide. We see some saving going on from Nick. That is some ERS saving, some fuel saving perhaps too. He now approach the final turn. Very good exit for Nick though, so I'm not sure if it's enough for Richmond to come closer, but he is going to try and go for it as we have yellow in sector 2. That was for one of the Alpines as we now see the move down for first place. Richmond will have to go round the outside. Will he be able to complete that move? He does. We have a new leader. Richmond has taken over from Nick. Meanwhile, all this fighting means that Giggle has come quite a bit closer as Rudy picks up another 3-second time penalty. But with Giggle not picking up a time penalty yet and the two men in front of him do having one, means that he virtually is in that lead. Although he might want to get in between those drivers and see if we can overtake them on the road itself. His tires are a little bit fresher, 4 laps fresher than Nick, 2 laps fresher than Richmond. Although he is also being followed closely by Funky. It's only 6/10 of a second behind. The gap now, the start of the lap, 1.3 seconds towards Nick in second position. Nick almost falling out of the DRS range of Richmond. So he will have to be careful here. Approaching turn 15, taking quite a bit of speed through there, not picking up any track limits there. Still 1.2 seconds behind, so not close enough. Nick was close enough, so he's going to try and play a little bit of catch-up game, having that DRS enabled. Look at that, his ERS fully deployed. Won't be able to make much use of that, although he's still going to go for an overtake, launches himself down the inside, and Richmond's going to stick around the outside. Will it be enough for the overtake? It will not be enough. Very good defending from Richmond there. Nick had to come a long way, but still got quite close.
Yeah, in towards turn 4, he's finding the outside line. Can't even get the switch back on. He's going for it in towards turn 5, not trying to give it up, but he's not just about close enough yet. Well, through sector 3 they had. On the exit now of turn 6, has he got enough? No, he hasn't. He just needs to stay close, wait for the DRS again, and slipstream it down the main pit straight. But with all this fighting, they've brought Giggle and Funky into this battle.
Yeah, it looks like we have a similar fight as what we had before the first pit stops. The top 4 being very close to one another, all within DRS range of each other. 5, 4, and 5/10 as we see our leader Richmond go very wide into that fast section. To turn 13 went a little bit wide. And we see Giggle lining up for a move towards Nick. Only 2/10 behind. That is very close. That might just be enough on the straight here. He has more than enough ERS left, has about half to still deploy, and he indeed is going to get past Nick. And also comes very close to the leader.
Yeah, getting very close to the DRS being enabled. It's always a term being used. If you don't have the DRS, you are sitting duck. So you just need to be careful of when you want to use your ERS down a DRS zone or when not to. But the only other thing that I did just noticed, Rudy and Hooky have been lapped. And currently Kington is on the bubble of being lapped, just they haven't been yet. So
he's still about 5 seconds, a little less, perhaps 3 or 4 seconds ahead of that pack. But you'll indeed have to watch out before he's going to be wave the blue flags there. See if we have anything happening at the back of the field. Not so much yet. But we indeed see that Funky is coming very close to Nick. And I think he wants to mount an assault here.
yeah, Nick unfortunately has lost the DRS. Those mediums seem to be wearing off quite quickly, and he's going to pull the plug, and he is boxing on this lap. He's going to go, seems like to be another set of mediums to wind this race off. He can make it to the end with the same, and unfortunately at the 5-second time penalty for speeding, it won't be served, and neither will his 3 seconds be served. They will have to go on at the end of the race, meaning that's currently what, 11 seconds of penalties? 14. Ow.
Yeah, he's not having a great day with those penalties, as we almost saw a new leader, Giggle fighting very, very hard with Rageman, was down alongside him into turn 1, but Rageman kept him at bay. It did not allow him to pass. He goes wide, goes way too wide, and he allows Funky to go past him. Little mistake there at the end of the first sector, and that means he will have to play catch-up again.
Yeah, not what you want. Any mistakes in general, you don't even want to pick up a time penalty because of a warning. But that's King Jan picking up another 3-second time penalty. So he's been able to push away though from the leaders, if you see on the mini-map. I think you currently have your set on just mini-map. You can turn it onto the full track map as well. You'll be able to see where every other driver is on track. And if you look on it, King Jan has pulled away, I think, at least 3 seconds again from Rageman to avoid himself being lapped.
Yeah, that's starting to look quite good for him as we, in the meantime, see that Jamie's trying to come a little bit closer to Sharky in 4th position. Has lost a little bit of time there, and I think he might be going... Now, he has not gone into the pits there, but he did lose quite a little bit of time between turns 15 and 16 as we see the fight between first place heating up again. We saw Funky come very, very close to Rageman, but not being able to mount an attack yet. Field definitely staying close here at the start as Mason also picks up a 3-second time penalty. Rudy picking up another one too. So I'll have to take a look in a couple of laps to see how those penalties have evolved over time. But with those penalties in play, it looks like Funky is our virtual leader. Although he will want to try and overtake Rageman on the track here. Tires are 1 lap fresher, but seeing that Nick took his pit stop after he's driven 10 laps on those mediums could mean that we see Rageman stop in a lap or 2.
Yeah, seems like he will be stopping in a couple laps. If you see as well on the tyre wear, Rudy's actually been on those mediums since like lap 3 under the VSC that he pit.
Rudy is indeed pulling a very, very long stint, showing everyone that it is possible to go for such a long run. In the meantime, Giggle has picked up DRS, is still saving his DRS a little bit, has about half of his bar still full for that, but so does Funky. Rageman is only on 14, so he is going to struggle a little bit more with that, with the men behind him on more energy usage. Jamie has, in the meantime, taken over the 4th position. As we saw Sharky go for a pit stop, he is going to drive his car to the end on that hard compound for the final 8 laps. But I wonder what our leading pack is going to do, because Rageman, he started on the softs and he went over to the mediums. Could perhaps go for a soft run at the end. The 2 men behind him drove 2 stints on the mediums. They will definitely be switching to that soft tire. And I think in 1 or 2 laps would be the ideal moment for that, wouldn't it?
Sorry, what was that again?
It looks like place 2 and 3, they have driven on mediums alone, so I think they'll be coming in for a pit stop in a moment to switch for those soft compounds. We see our leader now going in.
Giggles and
yeah, so
yeah, so Funky is now trying to pull the overcut here. Giggle is trying to pull the undercut on him, whereas Rageman is just taking his pit stop, trying to get off those tires. He goes on into the softs though. It is also soft for Giggle, with them being on lighter fuel load now because you've gone off the fuel load that you had used at the very start, being normally only down to about, say if you used, I mean example, 50 kilos to start, you should only be on about 17-ish, roughly, that is. Not always exactly.
A lot of drivers indeed stopping for the soft compound now, so Rageman, Giggle, Truth, Matthias and Ols all stopping for that. But I think we have to keep our eyes peeled to Giggle, because Funky likely is going to make that pit stop to prevent from being undercut by Giggle. because they are really fighting for the lead here, as both of them do not have any penalties yet, and Rachman not far away yet, but he might pick up the pace, and if he can pull another 1.5 second gap, he could still steal that victory.
Yeah, so Funky is going to pull in 9. He is going to take his final pit stop of the race. Speaking of pit stops, who still has to make them? Only Jamie, King and Rudy have to make another stop. I've just noticed as well, Hooky has made 4 so far.
That's quite a lot of pit stops, and he is on that hard compound too. As we see the pit stop going quite smoothly for Funky, but where on the field is he going to come back? Let's go over to Rachman. He's now on the start-finish straight. He will go past, and for Giggle it's going to be very close, but I think Giggle's going to come out ahead, and he indeed does. So the undercut did work here. Virtually now in the lead, 1.1 seconds behind Rachman. Rachman will have to try and pull the gap. Nick currently on quite a bit more penalties. Let's see how many penalties the drivers have in total currently. 14 for Nick, so he is going to be dropping down quite significantly as soon as we see the finish flag. For Rachman, only 3. He can still make something work here. And also Jess, not all too far away, only 4.4 seconds from this leading pack.
No, if anyone ahead, she'll be able to get up there. Currently, she will be P4 because of Nick's 14 seconds of time penalties. But other than that, not many differences. Only, I think, Matthias should fall down a position as well behind Oles. But it's 14, 3, 3, 3, 6, 6, 3, 15, 6, 9, and 9. Along the field, while the only, I think it's 5 drivers not have picked up the time penalty yet. So Giggle, Funky, Jeff, Truth and Oles. So they're doing very well right now.
Yeah, meanwhile we are on board with Jess, who we haven't seen all too much, even though driving in a very nice 5th position here. She was kind of off sync with the drivers up in the lead, but the gap stayed between those 4.5, 5.5 seconds. As King now picks up another time penalty. Shelby also picking up another one. This is more towards the back of the field, so I can't imagine that it's going to be too interesting for the point results. But the battle for 2nd and 3rd is now heating up, with Funky only being 3/10 behind Giggle.
Yeah, I've just gone on to look at the winnings in the racetrack as well. Funky, Truth, and Oles all have 2 warnings. Giggle and Jess have none currently. So if Funky gets 1 more, he's getting himself a time penalty.
Funky will really have to watch out then in his final 5 to 6 laps. One mistake could potentially cost him the win here, because he really only has to overtake 1 more driver here.
He's just gone it.
Okay. Well, that's the Caster's curse, isn't it?
Yeah, this is something I've had for a while. I should not talk just.
That's very, very unfortunate. That is going to drop him 3 seconds back. It's not going to drop him behind Jess, but it will compromise his chances for a battle for the lead, as we see Giggle go with the overtake on Rachman. Rachman not defending too much, knowing there that you really can't stop Giggle there, having the DRS. And now Giggle will try to approach Nick quicker and quicker, as we see Jamie come in with the fastest lap at 1:24.6. Jamie's comfortably driving in 7th place, very close actually behind Sharky, who's now in the hard compound. But seeing how everything is there, you might be able to go for another overtake there and try and finish 6th.
Yeah, you would only need 1 more overtake to get himself into 6th, because they both have 3-second time penalties to the name. So if Sharky picks up another one, he'll be going down in 7th anyway. But if it's Jamie who picks up 1, he won't be able to get ahead of Sharky unless he puts a 3-second gap on him, or Sharky picks up another time penalty to his name.
We also see Funky being very, very close to Giggle, who's been driving stellar so far. But can Funky go for that overtake? Giggle is within that DRS range of Nick. But with Funky being so close, maybe I'll have to look a little bit more in his mirrors. Does take that corner a little bit wider, so he has that extra exit speed. And will that be enough? It looks like he has quite a bit of overspeed, using all of his ERS there to try and get that position back, which he lost last lap. Brakes just a tad later, and I think that might just be enough. He does indeed get that overtake sorted, and he's back in front of Giggle.
Yeah, back in front now, but that's only on track provisionally. He is trying to get the on-track win. Only just over 3 laps left to go in this race. So the real question is it going to be decided on track? Will Giggle be able to get past Funky and Nick for the win, or will it be decided by penalties between them? I think someone's spun line. That would be Funky spun line, as yeah, he did say that Funky was trying to go for the move, but I think he may have gone pushed off track slightly.
He tried to go for the overtake here, and he really has to go for the quick overtake here, because if he does overtake Nick and Giggle gets stuck behind Nick for a while, he could pull a 3-second gap and have just enough to get that victory sorted. He doesn't have a lot of laps to do it, so he will really need to go for that overtake now. But seeing that Giggle is oh so close, we might see a double overtake on the start-finish straight now.
Yeah, which is not what you want to happen. Can Funky get the overtake done? He's got the slipstream, but I think there's a little bit of moving as well for Nick there. I think a little bit of contact between the two of them, but trying to go round the outside this time. Can he hold on to the move? Or is Nick be able to get it back in front? No, he can't. Funky has gotten ahead of Nick. His tyres are going off now after being on them for 8 laps already on the mediums compared to those softs currently. It's still on currently for Giggle. He's got less than 3 laps now. Will he be able to do it on track?
And this is going to pose a very interesting scenario, because if Funky can pull that gap like we were just talking about, he will still be able to get that victory. Now has about a 1.1 second gap over Giggle, and that's the only gap that he should really be watching. And with Rageman also still very close in that fight with them behind, could mean that if he drives just fast enough, he could still get that victory sorted. Already pulled the gap to 1.3, but I think it's all eyes on Giggle.
Yeah, it's just going to be a question of when can he pick his moment for overtaking in towards turn 15. It's a slight lift and a little bit of braking there as well done 5th gear, but Nick is just under so much pressure. He's lost the DRS now, so it's a real question, can Giggle get past and close back up to Funky to get on track, or he's just going to sit behind and wait for the penalties to be applied? He's going to go for it, he's going to take the inside line, and he's going to get ahead before the braking point even hits.
Yeah, really doing everything right there, Giggle, waiting his time, knowing that he is a much faster car, but knows that if he waits till the DRS range, he can go easily by, not lose too much time, and indeed being within a second of the leader Funky means that he is all but safe, as we are in our final 2 laps now.
Yes, on open lap, just losing the DRS slightly there, but through the final sector, it's going to be easier for him to pick it back up. It's just a real question of what setup does he have on the car? Is it a lower downforce? Is it a higher downforce? It's going to be deciding where he gets this move done on track on the penalties.
He's currently 1.3 seconds behind, so that might be a little bit too much to ask as we move back a little bit more. As Matthias is also picking up another 3-second time penalty. Rageman trying to get a little bit closer towards Nick. But Nick could play an interesting role here, because if Nick goes for the DRS attack on the straight onto Giggle, we could see a really close fight for first still with that penalty being applied. If that does not happen, however, I think the only thing Giggle has to do is not make any mistakes and stay within those 3 seconds.
Yeah, because as I did see on the racetrack, he didn't have any warnings last time I checked. Has he picked one up since then? He hasn't. He's actually kept it clean this entire race.
I think that's one of the most impressive things as we've seen so far. Not picking up a single penalty, not even picking up a warning.
I don't know what that was. Sharky got moved on Jamie, but it just looked like his car was on top of Jamie's, so he turned 2.
Let's see if we can find out what is happening over there, because Jamie seemed to have quite a comfortable lead. I think it was about 2.5 seconds over Sharky. He is now behind, so I think Jamie made a slight mistake there. Looking at the time as well that he has in Sector 1, it looks like he made a mistake. Not entirely sure what happened there as we go back to the front of the field with Rageman coming closer and closer to Nick, but knows really that it does not matter all too much what he does there, as we see another yellow flag in Sector 1. I think that was for one of the Haas's. It was Matthias now being overtaken by Truth. Does he have a mistake?
Matthias is out of fuel.
He's out of fuel?
Yeah. They all said this was the bad thing for them. They all went out of fuel, but it doesn't matter anymore because on track it may be funky, but the penalties don't lie, and it is going to be Giggle getting his first win of the season after a horrendous start last season. By 1.5 seconds, he's taking the win.
But now it's interesting to see, is Nick going to keep that gap towards Jess? No, he is not. It will... Oh, he's going to lose quite a bit of positions here. Finishing behind Sharky and Jamie as well. So we have Giggle with a win, Funky in second, and Rageman in third. Look at that gap between Sharky and Jamie. I think Jamie must be kicking himself, because what happened there in that last lap?
I don't know. I don't think he was able to close in just about enough. But overall, it's been a good battle between those two. I think Sharky just got up on the last lap in towards turn 1, was able to pick up the DOS and get back ahead. So it's only about 0.4 of a second between those two. We're just waiting for the final 4 drivers, Matthias, to cross the line. Unfortunately, running out of fuel for him, he couldn't do much about that. It was always a struggle in the final stint. I found out that the fuel burn was very high, and they had struggled with it for quite a while.
Well, it is Giggle picking up that first place here with the season opener. Jamie's been given driver of the day, but if you ask me here, it really is Giggle here. Managing to keep it so clean is very, very impressive here. What do you think, Ace?
Yeah, it was a good drive from him, but overall, we have to pick 2 different driver of the days. He wasn't mine anyway, so you're good with that one. So you can pick your question after this, but my driver of the day overall, 2nd place on the grid, 4th place at the end. It is Jess.
Yeah, I think Jess did very well, driving quite off sync in comparison to the top 4, and because of that time penalty for Nick, still picking up that 4th position, but really didn't make any mistakes either. So both the drivers picked, the drivers that were driving quite clean.
Yeah. Giggle picked up no warnings in the end, to be honest. So he actually kept very clean the entire race. But yeah, he did pick up none. I'm looking as well. Jess also didn't pick up any warnings at all. No track limit warnings, whereas you saw Nick, quite a lot of time penalties. That was 17 seconds overall. But your provisional results before any steward penalties get applied is Giggle winning by 1.5 seconds, and it's Funky in P2, Rageman P3, Jess P4, Sharky P5, Jamie P6, Nick P7, King P8, and Truth Alls, Fozzie Bear, and John Mason winning off your points, and then it's Matthias, Kingdon, O-Dog Shelby, Woody, and Hooky winding off your finishers, and it's Jacamundo and Trunders, your non-finishers. Unfortunately, the 4 Trunders wasn't able to, well, get it done in general. So, he only got about 4 laps of racing total.
Yeah, it was a very unfortunate session for him, but a great session for Giggle, who picks up the win here. In the meantime, we look at the calendar to show you all what is still in stock for the rest of the season, because we have 12 races in total, with the next race already being next week. We have 4 weeks in succession with races, with the next race being in Imola on the Enzo Edino Finale Autodromo Internazionale or something. It's a very long name. Do you know the full name?
Imola. It's
Yeah,
called Imola.
let's just
That's
call
what
it
it's called.
Imla. That's a lot easier. But
Well, if you want to go back in the past, San Marino Grand Prix.
yeah, they did indeed call it the San Marino Grand Prix, even though it's not located in San Marino. It's quite close to San Marino, but not quite there. But having to call it a
Yeah,
little
it
bit
was
different
mainly
there
because
yeah, Imola. Or you have Monza, so you can't call it the second Grand Prix. But indeed, Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari, that's the full name of the Imola track. And in 2 weeks' time, we will be in Hungary for the Hungaroring. And then finally, the fourth race in this quadruple header, we will see Brazil, so Interlagos. Quite some exciting races ahead and a lot of fast tracks too, because if we look at the races so far, Qatar is quite fast paced. You could say a bit of a Mickey Mouse track. Hungary definitely has the same reputation. Imola and Brazil, they are not too different either. What do you think?
the only thing I'd really call them all is high penalties for tracks.
Yeah,
They're easy to get track limit warnings.
they definitely
That's what I
are.
call them. But we do need to do our driver of the day questions. So if you have a question in mind for Google already, you can say it on this. If you don't, I'll give you a little bit of time to think of it, because I've already got a question lined up for Jess.
Well, I think the main question that is going to be for Giggle is his strategy, because he did start on those medium tires. We saw the drivers, a couple of drivers around him go for a soft, medium, soft stint. He himself opting for the medium, medium, soft stint together with Funky. But I'm curious why he decided to start on those medium tires in comparison to the soft tires.
Yeah, was a different strategy played out there, but my question for Jess is P2 on the grid, choosing the mediums. Did you even expect to pick up a top 5 today after, well, like last season, not being able to always pick up those high points as well as that? What do you think of hitting 200 points throughout your one hub racing career? As Red said before the stream had fully started, she only needed those 4 points to get 200.
Very, very impressive indeed. It's an important milestone to hit right there too. A very important one.
Yeah, but other than that, nothing else really to mention other than the fact of our partners and our sponsors for One Hub Racing. Have you got them, or do you want me to say them again?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Next Level Racing sponsoring some of the prizes being given out for your sim gear, for gloves and I think the pair of boots as well. Aztec Sim Sports, a couple of prizes with their mystery shirt box, giving one of their boxes away to the winner of the rankings for this season, all done by Cam. So whoever Cam decides will get the mystery shirt box at the end of the season. The other partners that we have are Vespertine doing our apparel, ERT with the ERT going its Tough Award and the league trophies, and then SimGrid we sponsor we're powering our seasons through them. But other than that, you need to make sure that everyone does their post-race interview to be in for a chance of getting the Going Gets Tough Award, because if you don't complete all of them, then you don't get put into the prize draw.
Yeah, it is very important to comply with those rules. Also keep in mind that you need to drive at least 80% of the races in order to qualify for those rewards. So with a total of 12 races, that would mean you'd need to race at least 10. Then you should be in for a shot with that. Also important, a quick shout out to Ols, who mentioned in the chat that he really enjoyed his race, up from 17th into 10th. Gone a little bit unnoticed, but a very nice race for him too, starting from so far back on the field and still picking up some points. So well done, mate. Well done.
Yeah, overall, not a bad race, but that should be winding us off tonight.
I think that will be it for tonight. Indeed, we will make sure that the standings will be updated not all too soon later. Make sure in the meantime also to join our Discord server if you're interested to get to know more about the drivers or to participate in future seasons. Definitely make sure to join that in. In the meantime, we also have our Tier 2 races going on YouTube, and in about 40 minutes right here on Twitch we will see the Tier 1 races commence with the best of the best in the league in action. Next week, as already mentioned, we will be back on Imola. I was your host for tonight. My name is SmithSky, and next week I'll be back together with Ace as well. I'm really looking forward to it. Well, that should be good.
Yes, goodbye and good night from myself and Meth as well.
Alright, so for everyone in the chat too, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. This was the first race of season 23 of the One Hub Racing. And like I mentioned, next week we'll be back, same time, so 6 p.m. British time, that is 7 p.m. for us Europeans. So we will see you next week. It will be on YouTube. So see you there, and good night.